What's up, guys? My name is Brendan, and the trick of the week this week is the 540. Today, I'm gonna go over a nice, long, detailed progression for learning the 540. After that, I'm gonna teach you the 540 technique and give you 5 essential tips if you want a good, strong, and clean 540. So, with that said, let's get started. The first step in our progression is going to be to learn the roundhouse kick. When you perform a 540, you can do 2 kicks. You can either do an outside to in crescent kick, or you can execute a roundhouse kick by chambering, pivoting, and kicking across your target. You see, when you do a 540, I usually recommend people focus on the roundhouse kick. Not only does the roundhouse kick let you hit a target really hard, but also it gives you that hip turnover. And when you're executing a 540, it helps to get your legs beneath you to have good hip turnover when you perform the kick. And like I said earlier, the technique for the roundhouse kick is super basic. You just chamber, pivot, and then extend your leg to strike across your target. If you can get a good solid roundhouse kick, that will definitely translate to a good kick when you perform the 540. The second step in our progression is to learn the cheat setup. When you do a 540, you use a cheat setup to jump into the air and to give you plenty of momentum to perform your kick. To do a cheat setup, it's super easy. You start in a backside stance or maybe a neutral stance, and you take your back leg and you step it in front. From there, you're just going to turn another 180 degrees as you take your back leg and you bring it in front of you in a nice chamber position. Once you get to this position, you jump to execute whatever kick you're going to perform. If you want a good solid 540, I really recommend you take some time to master the cheat setup. If you can get a high, floaty, strong cheat setup without any kick, just stepping and pumping that knee, you will have no problems getting the height you need to perform the 540 kick. So learning that cheat setup is an essential step in this progression. The third step in the progression to the 540 is the cheat 180 hyper. And the cheat 180 hyper is a super easy trick that introduces a lot of the skills needed to perform the 540. To do the cheat 180 hyper, you do that cheat setup that I just mentioned, and as you bring your knee up in a pump to help you jump into the air, you perform an inside to outside crescent kick, and then you land back on your kicking leg. That's why it's called a hyper. The term hyper means you're landing on your kicking leg and you're maybe adding a little bit of extra rotation. When you do the 540, it is a hyper tornado kick. So learning the cheat 180 hyper is a great way to start learning hyper tricks and to get used to landing on the same leg you kicked with. Not only that, but the cheat 180 hyper is a super easy, low impact trick that helps introduce those skills. That's why I think the cheat 180 hyper is a really good step in the progression to learning the 540. Step 4 in our progression is to learn the tornado kick. When you do the tornado kick, you're doing that cheat setup into the highest, strongest round kick you possibly can. If you can do a good tornado kick with a super high target that launches you into the air, it will be far easier to perform the 540. When people learn the 540, they often don't invest enough time into learning that tornado kick. If you can master your tornado kick, you will have a great cheat setup and a super strong round kick. And those two things are essential for learning the 540. The only other thing you really need to master is the landing, because the setup and kick is all in the tornado kick. If you can get a solid tornado kick, everything will be far easier and you'll be able to do a much better 540 when you finally learn it. The fifth step in our progression is to learn the hyper round kick. You see, we've already trained the setup and the kick. Now we need to work on our landing. When people learn the 540, very often they will get injured. That's because they have a strong setup. They probably have a really good tornado kick. They're able to throw a strong round kick with enough hip turnover to kick their body over. But they don't train the landing, the final most important part of any trick. So what I recommend is master the landing of the 540 by doing the hyper round kick, where you literally just stand, perform a roundhouse kick, and then land back on that kicking leg. You'll notice it really helps to take your bottom leg, your base leg, and lift it back as you bring your kicking leg down. Moving your legs in opposition like that is extremely beneficial and an essential skill if you want to perform a good 540. Not only that, but when you're working the hyper round kick, you should focus on your landing position, making sure you're landing with your ankle right over your feet and your knee over top of both of those. If you're landing in a weird, awkward position, you can severely damage your ankle, and that is not fun at all. So work the landing of the 540 by doing a ton of hyper round kicks. The last step before learning the 540 is to do the baby 540. What I mean is to do a 540, but do the smallest, babiest, littlest kick you can, and maybe target something the height of a baby or small child. If you do this, it will be far easier to perform the 540, and what I strongly recommend is start with that baby 540, kicking a target super low and just going really slow, and then slowly but surely build to a stronger kick, a bigger kick, and a higher target. Often I see people learn a good tornado kick, get a solid round kick hyper, and then they just full blast go for the strongest 540 they can. What I recommend is before you do the strongest 540 you can, do the weakest 540 you can. That way you can get comfortable with the technique and you're able to do it far safer. When you do finally commit to the 540, you're gonna wanna know if it was a good set or a bad set, if you're able to land, or if you might get injured. And what I recommend is build that knowledge, build that awareness by doing the baby 540, and then slowly progress it to the actual trick. If you're able to do every trick in this progression, I think you're ready to learn the 540 because it uses everything we've done so far. When you do the 540, you're performing a round kick as you strike your target. Not only that, but you use your cheat setup to jump into the air. The cheat 180 hyper is super important for helping you get that pump leg up. And then the tornado kick is super important for teaching you how to kick from that cheat setup, and specifically to perform that roundhouse kick I talked about earlier. Finally, you learn the hyper round kick to master your landing, and then you do a ton of baby 540s until you're ready to finally commit to the skill. But now that I've gone over a progression for learning the 540, I want to go in extreme detail talking about the 540 technique. Next, I want to teach you the technique behind performing the 540. The 540 is a super cool trick, and the technique is really complicated. But if you break it down into its parts, it's far easier. First, you start with that cheat setup, the same one we learned earlier. As you do that cheat setup, make sure you're swinging your arms to generate a ton of momentum. As you do that arm swing, you're not just going to be moving them horizontal, but almost lifting them up as you turn to help you jump for the 540. And as you do that big 540 jump, you're going to be pumping with that front leg. A lot of athletes, instead of pumping with a straight knee, will pump with a little bit of a straighter leg. If you pump with a straighter leg, you'll get a little bit more height than if you pumped with just your knee. once the athletes jump into the air, they start to execute their kick. And this involves a lot of opposition. Their front leg, the one that they just pumped up into the air, drops down as their kicking leg goes up to perform the roundhouse kick. As you do that kick, your arms move in opposition of your kick. So as your leg kicks across, your arms move opposite to that. And the leg dropping, the pump knee, is also what helps the kicking leg get up into the air. There is opposition in that as well. Now, once you kick your target, you're going to end the 540. The ending of the 540 involves a huge twist. You take your arms and you pull them towards your twisting shoulder, helping you get a little bit more momentum to carry that leg all the way down to the ground, because you want to twist as you perform the 540. And as that kicking leg goes down, the leg that's nearest to the ground goes up, again acting in opposition. Then you land that 540 on that kicking leg, making sure you're landing first with your toes and your balls of the feet, absorbing with the ankle, and then bending at the knee to make sure you can land nice and soft. But that's the technique for performing the 540. You do all of those things. You have that massive cheat setup, using your arms and pumping that leg. Then you jump into the air, dropping the one leg, executing the roundhouse kick as you move your arms in opposition. Finally, you end the trick by twisting it around, kicking that leg down as you bring your bottom leg up, and you land, absorbing that impact on your kicking leg. The 540 is a super cool trick, and that's the technique behind performing it. Finally, I want to end by giving you 5 tips on how you can throw a good, clean 540. This trick does come with a little bit of risk, so guys, please approach it with caution, but use these tips to help you perfect your technique and throw a cleaner kick. Tip number 1 is to spot your target. When you throw the 540, you are throwing a kick. And whenever you do any kick, you should be spotting your target. Often when athletes learn the 540, they'll start by just looking at their landing the entire time. And guys, that kills your set. If you want to do this trick good and clean, you want to be looking to the side as you're spinning around during your cheat setup. As you perform your roundhouse kick, you want to be looking straight forward right at your target. Only after kicking your target should you look down at your landing and spin for the end of the 540. If you're looking at your landing the entire time, you're not going to be able to do this trick well. So make sure you're spotting your target and then you're landing. Tip number 2 is to twist as you kick. When you perform the 540 kick, you should be twisting as well. When you perform the kick itself, you move your arms in opposition, but then to land, you need to twist around, moving your arms towards your twisting side, looking towards your twisting shoulder, and kicking that leg over. If you do those things, you'll be able to land the 540 far easier, and if you're able to control your twist, the kick will look far better. Tip number 3, pump your leg hard. When you do the 540, and when you do any cheat setup, you need to be pumping your leg up. The harder you can kick that leg and drive it up in the beginning, the more power you're gonna have and the more height you'll get when you do the 540. Not only do you have to kick up with that pump leg, but you also have to jump off your base leg. If you can pump really hard and jump really hard, you'll be able to get plenty of height when you do the 540. And height is essential if you want this trick to be good, clean, and consistent. Tip number 4 is to use opposition. I talked a lot in this tutorial about how you can use opposition to make this trick far easier. For example, when you're kicking your leg across your target, you want to move your arms in opposition to make your chest almost freeze in place. When you're doing that initial tornado kick, your pumping leg going down is what helps your kicking leg go up. And after you perform the tornado kick and you're landing on your kicking leg, it makes it far easier if you pull up the leg that's closest to the ground. If you use opposition in all the steps of the trick, it will be far easier because opposition is one of the ways you're able to control your body and to control your twist. As one part moves, the rest of it moves in opposition, just like equal and opposite forces. These things are super important. And if you want to get a good 540, and if you want to get good tricks, I highly recommend you invest your time into learning about body mechanics and kinematics. If you can understand how the body moves, it will be far easier to dissect and think about any trick. Tip number 5 is a drill. If you want a good solid 540, I recommend you practice the standing 540. To do this, you just don't do the initial twist of the cheat setup. You stand with your pump knee in front and you just jump trying to perform a 540. This trick in this drill is far harder than the 540 itself. But if you do it over and over and over again, you can perfectly condition the muscles to help you jump when performing the 540 and kick to get your leg beneath you. I strongly recommend doing this drill if you want to master the 540. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, of course, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more. And if you like the Trick of the Week series, I just made a playlist containing all of them. This is number like 15. So I've been doing this for 15 weeks. That means there are plenty of videos, plenty of tutorials, and plenty of things to learn if you want to get good at tricking. Guys, if you want to go deeper with mastering tricking and help invest in creating this content, please consider becoming a patron. Patrons get instant access to me, along with a ton of other rewards. And if you want to support mastering tricking in a different way, you could always go to howtomastertricking.com, pick up a shirt, or maybe even buy the Mastering Curriculum, an ebook that dictates my tricking philosophy. But thank you guys as always, and please have a lovely day.